You couldn't compete with Yoko.
I couldn't compete with Yoko. Absolutely not. I was too young.
You couldn't be a mother to John.
I didn't want to be, and that's more important.
A lot of people don't realize, but she did ask for a divorce in 74.
Important, but we never lost our love for each other, and that was important to me.
How do you know? Did you communicate with John after you went home?
Yes, we did a lot.
Were you still lovers?
Oh, you know it. The Lost Weekend isn't just rock and roll gossip. It's practically myth level. It wasn't just chaos and tabloids. It was May Pang's moment. Lennon's assistant-turned-girlfriend brought love, laughter, and creativity to one of his wildest eras, from studio magic to UFO sightings. Let's get into it. May Pang's story starts in Manhattan, where she grew up in Spanish Harlem with her sister and adopted brother, both originally from China. Her parents, Chinese immigrants, were hustling hard. Her mom even ran a laundry business in the neighborhood. Eventually, the family moved to a new spot in Manhattan when their old building was set to be torn down. After high school, May hit New York City Community College with dreams of becoming a model. But apparently, modeling agencies weren't ready for her look and said she was too ethnic. Cringe. Instead, she worked her way into the music industry, landing a job as a song plugger, basically pitching songs to artists. By 1970, she snagged a gig as a receptionist at ABKCO Records, working under Alan Klein, who managed Apple Records and some major Beatles players like John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. Not bad, right? Soon, May found herself helping Lennon and Yoko Ono with their artsy film projects, like Up Your Legs Forever. Yes, that's real. Before long, she became their go-to assistant, managing everything from errands to big-time art shows. When the couple moved to Manhattan in 1971, May was right there with them. She even helped organize Ono's exhibition, This Is Not Here in Syracuse, which just so happened to double as Lennon's 31st birthday bash. The guest list? Casual, Ringo Starr, Phil Spector, and Elliot Mintz. May's life was already wild at this point, and it was only just getting started.
And I just had this look on my face. I said, well, I'm not interested in your husband. And she says, oh, I know you're not after him, but I know that he likes you and you will treat him right, so you should go out with him.
She ordered you to have an affair with her husband.
Yeah, she thought it was the best thing since I didn't have a boyfriend.
May's career definitely wasn't all smooth sailing, and a lot of it had to do with her personal life, especially her complicated relationship with John Lennon. When Lennon and Yoko took a break in 1973, Yoko actually suggested that Lennon hook up with May, which sparked what's now known as his Lost Weekend. During this time, May wasn't just John's assistant anymore. She was his partner, both in work and in life. She was there for him during a pretty chaotic and tough time. It was a mix of professional and personal, and while she helped him through a lot, things weren't always easy or straightforward. This whole chapter was far from simple, with a lot of emotional twists for everyone involved. May had a pretty intense connection with John, but of course that didn't come without some serious drama. The media and fans weren't exactly kind, often painting her as the other woman who was just replacing Yoko. That kind of attention added a lot of pressure to her personal and professional life. Even after her relationship with John ended, she still had to deal with the public's perception of her role in his life. On top of that, she was also trying to find her place in the music world, which wasn't exactly easy with all the extra baggage. Even though May was super talented as a singer, producer, and manager, she hit some serious roadblocks in the music industry. It seemed like labels and industry bigwigs were reluctant to give her a shot, probably because of the whole Lennon drama. So her own music career, which had tons of potential, ended up taking a back seat to all the controversy surrounding her connection with him. Plus, while she was in this creative bubble with Lennon, it was hard for her to get the recognition she deserved. Her contributions often got lost in the shadow of John's superstar status, making it tough for her to stand out and build her own name in the music world.
Did John tell you that he was going to leave Yoko?
They were talking about it? Yes, we talked about that in 74.
In 1973, May was deep into working on John Lennon's Mind Games album when things with him and Yoko hit a rough patch. Yoko suggested that Pang step in and become John's companion, saying their marriage was falling apart and John might start seeing other women. She even told May that Lennon found her attractive. At first, May wasn't about to start anything. since he was her boss and married. But Yoko wasn't having it, telling her she'd handle everything. And so began what Lennon later called his lost weekend. In October, Lennon and May left New York for LA, crashing at a couple of places, including a lawyer's apartment and then Lou Adler's house. While there, Lennon got the idea to record an album of rock and roll classics and even produce another artist. He teamed up with Phil Spector to make the rock and roll album, but the sessions were a mess. John was drinking heavily, and Spector's erratic behavior, including firing a gun in the studio, made it all go sideways.
Did he become physically abusive to you?
He did a couple of times, yeah.
Knock you around a bit?
He threw me against the wall. Sure.
John shifted focus and started producing Harry Nilsson's Pussycats album. The name was a jab at their bad boy image after getting into trouble a few times. Lennon and Nilsson were notorious for wild antics, like when Lennon placed a Kotex on his forehead and got into a scuffle with a waitress at a show. To keep the recording on track, May rented a beach house in Santa Monica for the crew: John, Nilsson, Ringo Starr, and Keith Moon. This living situation also led to some healing for Lennon. He patched things up with Paul McCartney and even had a long overdue visit with his son Julian after 2 years apart. Julian started spending more time with his dad, and things seemed to be looking up between them. For Christmas, John got him a Gibson Les Paul guitar and a drum machine, and even showed him some chords. Julian remembers that period as one of the happiest times he had with his dad and Maypang. They got along great, had fun, and just enjoyed each other's company. In fact, the cover of Julian's album Jude features a childhood pic of him taken by May.
Julian.
It was an absolute joy and a pleasure. It was just Dad and May, and it was just a happy, happy time. Especially in some of the photographs, you can see that May took of us, of Dad and I together.
By the summer of '74, John and May had moved back to Manhattan. John had quit drinking and was focused on his music. They even adopted 2 cats, Major and Minor, and settled into a penthouse on East 52nd Street. While John was working on walls and bridges, they had an unforgettable experience. One night, they both spotted a UFO from their terrace. John and the Buff rushed to call May outside to check it out. They watched a glowing, circular object floating less than 100 feet away. John called his photographer, Bob Gruen, to tell him what happened, and Gruen suggested calling the cops. John laughed it off, saying he wasn't about to tell the world that he saw a UFO. But when the police confirmed that others in the area had reported the same thing, it made headlines. The sighting even made its way into John's song, Nobody Told Me. During a trip to Mick Jagger's place in Montauk, New York, John and May spotted a cute Scottish-style cottage near Montauk Point Lighthouse and decided to make an offer. But before they could get too attached to the idea, things took a sudden turn. They were also planning to visit Paul and Linda McCartney in New Orleans, where Wings were recording Venus and Mars, but right before they were set to go, John suddenly made up with Yoko. She told him she had a cure for his smoking habit, and the next thing you know, Lennon wasn't coming back to May. He didn't even call her. When May called Yoko, she said John was out cold after a hypnotherapy session. A few days later, Lennon stumbled into a dental appointment, looking totally spaced out, and told May that he and Yoko were back together, and their relationship was done.
You couldn't compete with Yoko.
I couldn't compete with Yoko. Absolutely not. I was too young.
You couldn't be a mother to John.
I didn't want to be, and that's more important.
In the years that followed, May and John did meet a couple of times, but things were never the same. John spoke openly about this chapter later on. He told journalist Larry Kane that while he had some of the best moments of his life during his time with May, it all went downhill with the partying and the chaos. It was a messy but oddly happy time, at least for him.
Important, but we never lost our love for each other, and that was important to me.
How do you know? Did you communicate with John after you went home?
Yes, we did a lot.
Were you still lovers?
In 2022, the Tribeca Film Festival dropped The Lost Weekend, a love story, a 97-minute doc that gives us a rare peek into May Pang's life, her whirlwind relationship with John Lennon, and the crazy, pivotal time they spent together. Directed by Eve Brandstein, Richard Kaufman, and Stuart Samuels, the film digs deep into the emotional roller coaster and the constant spotlight that came with being with one of the most famous musicians in the world. We hear it all from May herself, who opens up about the ups and downs of their 18-month relationship during Lennon's Lost Weekend, when he and Yoko Ono were on a break. But this isn't just about the drama of their romance. The film also shines a light on May's own journey showing how she played a big part in Lennon's music during this time. It also touches on how the media treated their relationship, often judging and complicating May's life in ways most people don't even realize. After its Tribeca debut, the film went virtual, giving people everywhere the chance to see it. The Lost Weekend. A love story didn't just give us a glimpse into Lennon's world during his split from Yoko, but also told May's story, something that's usually overlooked. It proved how much she actually contributed to his career and how her own life was affected by everything that happened. Following the Tribeca screening, the film got a limited theater release in April 2023, which brought it to more fans around the world. Then, in October 2023, it hit streaming platforms, giving even more people a chance to watch. Plus, it came out on Blu-ray, so you can own this fascinating documentary and dive deeper into one of the most controversial chapters of Lennon's life. What really makes this documentary stand out is that it gives May the chance to tell her side of the story, offering a fresh perspective on Lennon's life and clearing up some of the myths about their relationship. It also highlights how May's creativity and impact on Lennon's music are a big part of the legacy of this time, proving there's way more to her than just being the other woman in the story. And that's a wrap on today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more deep dives into music history and untold stories. Got thoughts? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.